What's good, everyone? Today, I thought I'd cover a topic that I've been meaning to make a video on for a while, just because I feel a lot of people, like honestly most people who play this game, even at the higher levels, struggle with like super concise labbing. I think training mode in this game is definitely not utilized by the vast majority of the player base. There are like the amount of players that use training mode to its max potential, I can count on like one fucking hand. So I really just wanted to push something out there to try to just emphasize what people should try to look for and like how people should structure their practice in terms of like their lab time. Let's hop right into shit. So the first topic I really want to kind of get into, I'll do defense first off. I'll go into offense as probably neutral, like concepts of labbing later, but as far as defense first, the big thing with defense is, I mean, obviously you need to practice specifics, and you'll go by matchup, and kind of figure out what you need to lab in which scenarios, what things you're struggling with. But the big thing is like figuring out, okay, how do I actually break the character's offensive pressure down into like digestible chunks of shit that I can lab and concisely make a game plan around. The answer is both shockingly simple and also, I wouldn't say a little complicated, but it's really not. It's kind of just a lot. Honestly, how you should look at a character's offense is literally just go down their Gatling tree, look through their set play, look at what kind of shit they do on offense, and then literally just fucking boot up improvement mod and directly look at what kind of frame data you're looking at dealing with. Like Nazriel's case, okay, 5EV common string used has a 1 frame gap, so say I'm fucking bang, I know, okay, this means if I IB this move, I can pop my 4 frame guard point, and I can RPS from there. Or if I want a DP character, I'm like, okay, no, I can DP there because there's a 1 frame gap, regardless of IV. Or I can backdash if I want a character with a good backdash, etc., etc. Which that's like duh. I feel like everybody kind of gets the basic gist of that, but kind of just break it down further into everything characters do. Like, it kind of is just that simple in terms of how you lab different characters' offensive pressure. Like, I'll break it down as Valk. I'll go through some strings with Valk real quick just to demonstrate. Valk is like obviously a character who has quite a bit of depth to his offense. His offense is not straightforward in the slightest. Like, the way he structures his pressure is very odd, but you still just apply the exact same concepts to him. So okay, that string right there, we saw that I had a 2 frame gap initially from the Wolf 5C to the JA. And we also saw that there was a, what was it, a 4 frame gap? Yeah, a 4 frame gap between the J and the JC. This tells us 2 things. This says, 1, if we have a 5 frame jab, we can trade, and that's a favorable trade because he's in the air in terms of like Wolf 5C. Like Wolf 5C into Wolf JA. This also tells us that we can obviously backdash or DP, which I wouldn't really recommend, because this is the OS character and you'll cook your shit. At least for a lot of characters he will. This also tells you that you can jump. And if you have a 4 frame anti-air or better, this also tells you that you can do that, and you can fucking just murder him for trying anything. Like say you're playing Ragna, you can mash 6A there, which again can be OS'd, but that's not really the point of this video. I would be keeping that kind of stuff in mind is definitely like a big part of like labbing, but I just won't go that in depth for the purpose of making this video not 15 million hours long, hopefully. So let's look at things in practice. I know my 5 frame trades. I'm like, okay, good. That's a cool option I can represent now. Okay, I know that if I IBB him out, then his Wolf 5B will whiff there, so that's cool to know too. I know, okay, Wolf 5B will catch me if I just IB there. If I IBB, I'm out. I think I can get to... Oh, I don't suck. Yeah. I can represent this. Just like, okay, this is a cool thing to note. So we take this information. It's not like... The thing with figuring out defensive situations isn't that like you find quote-unquote checkmates to just like win scenarios. It's that you figure out the RPS of every single scenario that a character can put you in. And from there, you abuse both your reactions and also just your knowledge of the RPS to always pick an option that has strong risk-reward. Either you block and you trust in your reactions defensively, or you pick an option that you know has strong risk-reward in the situation because you've labbed the situation and you know how the RPS functions. You're not just like swinging into the dark hoping shit will work. The biggest thing about defense in this game, besides just like having good reactions, is just knowing the RPS, like I've been saying. Understanding what your character can do specifically in situations like this will like make a night and day difference in how successful you are in terms of interacting defensively with other characters. So that's just like the initial part of this string. I realized, okay, 7-frame gap, so I can do this. That's cool. I'm glad to know that. I have a character with 7-frame anti-air. I can also try that. Another nice thing to attempt. I'm trolling. I'm actually not sure if that DP there is safe or not. He might recover from Wolf JC, but like, you get the idea here that I'm trying to showcase. So, we can take this concept and apply it to fucking anything. We see I can definitely be less than 2 frames. I was wrong. It is just fucking 2-frame gap. Yeah. So given that this is a 5-frame gap in this scenario, which like, obviously it's not always this cut and dry. Characters can do other shit on their offense. They don't just have to do the basic bread and butter shit. He can do 5A or 5B or whatever to like catch me dealing with a layer 1, and that's where like further layers and interaction RPS comes into play. So you gotta use your brain more, and like think and actually play a 2-player game, but just like to understand situations and matchups. We see there's a 5-frame gap, so we see once again we have another trade opportunity here, which this one's not as good. What I mean, it's still better than nothing. It's a lot better than him just mixing you up for free. That's a certainty. You also have right here your +10, so do shit like that, which I don't really go into OD prior, but like you want to be factoring all this shit in and also constantly factoring in how the situations change with IB and IBB, what your character's specific tools are, and of course like how you can OD in these situations as well. So yeah, I'll go on to the next thing. We see right here, okay, this block string, if I IB it, I'm stuck. If I normal block it, I'm stuck. If I miss any of my barriers, I'm stuck. But if I barrier all 3, then he gets pushed out here. Which like, this is a niche scenario, which I'm just showing, just to like, continue to show shit, but there's another thing where it's like, this situation, if you push him to this distance by factoring in like, exactly how many normals you're IBBing, you completely change the dynamic of this situation. It becomes like, super favored for you, which like, it's an awkward thing to just like vomit this information out to you, but I guess the important takeaway from this kind of shit is like you lab out these situations and you figure out exactly what happens dependent on your defensive responses to things, and in doing so you kind of just like figure out how shit will go in the course of a match. Like say you're playing a match and you get those 3 IBVs in a row and you don't know that Wolf 5A will whiff there, and you're just like, okay, I'd assume he still probably gets to run pressure on me. Then you kind of just like give up what should be your advantage for free. Whereas if you do know that, you're mashing 5A, or not 5A, you're mashing 5C out of hit stun, or block stun there. I'm high as fuck, man. Oh my god. You're mashing 5C out of hit stun as Azrael, and all of a sudden you take back your turn off of a really, like out of a really disfavored situation. Same shit for like, so this 2-frame gap. The IV, you can apply the same concept. Same concept can be applied. Shown earlier with the 5C. So that's like pretty basic shit as far as labbing goes. We can move on a little bit. Let me grab a different character for y'all real quick, just to showcase some different things. Or actually, wait. Let me just showcase this real quick. So like, it's like, let's look at Bang here. Bang doesn't have a 5-frame button, so you can't interact in this space. But does that mean that like all hope is lost and you just can't do anything in this matchup anymore? No. You figure out, okay, what does my character have that he can't apply in these situations? So let's see for Bang. Isn't that just awesome? I applied my character's toolkits to the situation and found an answer that works just as well. And it still gives me a really favorable outcome. You're not always going to be able to find an answer with your character. I mean, you probably normally will be able to, but it's not always going to be as high reward as another character, and that's just the name of the game. But typically, your character can interact in situations in some way, shape, or form. You just have to figure out how, and figure out if it's worth doing or not. Even if it's quote-unquote not worth doing, you need to figure out, like, how not worth doing is it? How often could it be represented? How bad is the option really? Etc, etc. The thing with Bang here is, unlike Azrael, I'm trolling. He has a strong option to deal with 5C in this situation. I'm fucking, I suck. This situation, I have 5D. The gap there is 5 frames. I don't have to take a shitty trade like Azrael does. I can take a true option and deal with things. Let's call this situation. Actually, I might not even be able to interact in the same way here. My character model might be too fat compared to Azrael to get him off me. Yeah, Bang is simply too fat. Even standing. So I can't apply the same thing that he could apply earlier. But in turn, I can take a different approach to another situation. I can do this, whereas Azrael has nothing he can do there because his DP will whiff on Wolf standing. Kind of just like go and see what your character has defensively, and literally just fucking apply that shit. And it doesn't have to be like blatant tools. Like obviously Azrael has all of his shit. Bang has drives. It can be like backdashes. My character has like, oh, I play Coco. My character has a 7-frame backdash to 22-frame recovery. Let me take this backdash and apply it to the situation and find out, oh, wait a second, I'm actually +2 if I backdash this move here. I should use this and abuse this in this scenario. Same for shit like, I mean, a lot of characters have like random foot invuln moves, random body invuln moves. Like, there's a lot of shit like that in BlazBlue that you just should apply. Like, for instance, in that situation right there, Shit, what is Plat 60 invuln? Is that frame 3? I don't remember if it's frame 2 or frame 3, but if it is frame 2, then obviously you could use that and like put that in as an option in your wheelhouse. It's just a matter of trying shit out and figuring out what works for your character. Yeah, so let's go further. Give me one moment. Okay. So now moving past the initial barrier of like, okay, I've figured out my RPS situations versus these characters. I understand what I should do in XYZ situations that I end up in, but I keep choosing wrong options, or I keep not reacting to the scenarios in front of me. What should I do? Well, you can practice. Which sounds like awkward. You go, practice. How would I practice reacting to offensive scenarios? Well, I have just the thing for you. There are two flavors of reaction training that I like to employ. The first is just like plain old high-low throw. Fucking set S or Jin or Rachel or Easy Oi or fucking whoever. Do fast overheads and lows, hit the same frame after recording starts, and just sit there and practice blocking said characters out. It'll just build your reaction times. It'll just help you feel less threatened whenever you are actually blocking in a real game. It's one of those things where it's like, since you're literally just dealing with a mix-up situation repeatedly, like slammed over and over and over again, you never have a chance to like ease up and familiarize yourself with the recording. So, because the recording is not like a pre-designated string, it's just overhead lower throw. So you kind of just are forced to react, and doing so will just help your defense improve. Like I said, reactions are like nice, it'll improve them marginally, but the biggest thing is it will make you familiar with animations, which will improve your reactions a lot. And it will obviously make you like way less threatened, like I said, in said scenarios, which is also a really big thing, because maintaining your composure on defense in this video game is like the most important aspect of defense, and it's what separates the good players from the great players. The other form of reaction training, which is why I have Relius on the screen right now, is practicing recognizing defensive scenarios and like practicing your defensive situational awareness for matchups. So it sounds like an odd thing to kind of just like throw in as a concept. So let me kind of break it down for you here. I have 4 recordings as Relius. Let me just like go through them. Relius players, you've seen all of them do this a billion times. They love to do this. I also love to do this. Also love to do this, of course. And I love that one. Actually, let me do this. Or no, that's fine. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, so Aurelius is a character who likes to use this rotation of things. He obviously does some other shit. Like, this is not his entire offensive pressure, but he's a character who likes to employ a few of these options, and being ready and like practicing your awareness for these options will help you tremendously fighting this character or any other character you employ this kind of shit versus. Like Relius. Like, obviously, I know a recording set there, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna challenge, but can I be? If I go, okay, I know I can jump in that situation pretty consistently. What else are my options? I go, okay, this is also decent. Which you can 2C there, and that opens up more RPS, but like, the general thing here is just figuring out what beats these situations and then reacting accordingly. So here, my DP, I eat shit. He recovers and blocks there 100% of the time. If I dash TP though, I can do something. You go, okay, like, I understand, I'm already here. I already know what I'm supposed to do in the RPS of this matchup. I already labbed it. Like, why are you showing me all this shit? Well, now is where the fun part comes in. Too late. You get the picture for this type of shit. So obviously, like I said before, just the like raw reaction training, which you've seen me preach a bajillion times before, really good. But the situational awareness type stuff where you like pick active options, also really strong. You should try to incorporate both. Yeah, I think that's like mostly it as far as the defensive portion. I guess I could like go over strike throw shit a little bit. But I mean, it's not that complex. It's kind of just more of the same. It's just understanding that these characters have better ability to string together their normals and like push the RPS situations into their favor, and it's less cut and dry compared to set play, what you can and cannot do in situations, because they just have like more free but less like concrete and ironclad options, which changes the dynamic a little bit, but like ultimately things aren't too crazy different. Like look for the same type of shit, figure out what's giving you problems, and then just like go from there. The biggest thing is just fucking literally look at your footage, be like, what is hurting me when I'm fighting XYZ players? What is fucking me up? And then going to the lab and recreating those situations and figuring out how the fuck to deal with them. If you do that, you'll have tremendous success defensively. But it's like the biggest thing that people don't do is they don't one-to-one recreate situations they find themselves in, and then they just never figure out how to deal with them, and they always feel completely helpless whenever they go into defense against any given character. If you fix that issue, you will fix your defense, and you'll be extremely grateful you did so. Alright, so next part, oh shit, that's the wrong window, my bad. So, the next part of the video is going to be going over neutral, which labbing neutral concepts is a little difficult for a lot of people to kind of wrap their head around, because it is a little awkward. But it kind of just boils down to the same thing that the prior thing boils down to, and it literally is just, what does this character do in neutral that gives me trouble? But then you break it down further. I mean, you break it down like this on defense too, but I didn't go into it as much. You go, okay, what do they do that gives me trouble? What is objectively strong in their toolkit? What is objectively strong in my toolkit? What options do I have that can interact with their options? What tools can I use to fill the holes that I may have, that my character may have in this matchup? What can I possibly do to like figure out XYZ? Which, it's a lot to just like chuck it out at you like that, but it's kind of just how it is. So from here, you go, okay, I have all this information. Let me see if I can try to formulate some kind of game plan with it. So, Jin versus Bang. This neutral is a little bit rough. Bang has no anti-air. Jin has extremely strong jump normals. Bang has good air normals, but they aren't disjointed, typically. And if they are disjointed, they aren't disjointed by much, whereas Jin's air normals are extremely disjointed. That kind of makes the neutral game a little tricky for him. Jin's also really small and can dodge nails super well. Like his air barrier hurt box, tiny. So you kind of look at it like that, and you're like, okay, what do I do in this matchup? This seems impossible. But you have a lot that you can play around with. You kind of just need to figure out what tools you can use in different situations. So like Bang, for instance, I can do this. I can use my 3-season anti-air in this matchup when Jin is trying to poke from neutral spacings, which is obviously isn't an anti-air move. This has no head invuln in this game. Like versus most characters, this shit is troll. But versus Jin and 9 and like a select few others, surprisingly good in a decent amount of scenarios. So you abuse it, or you can't. Same for say like 2B. 2B is obviously not an anti-air, but the good thing about it is you see this 1 frame discrepancy? This is the frame before the move goes active, and this is the frame the move goes active. He shifts an entire character's length in that single frame, and he moves his trade hurt box. Like, he basically takes his whole fucking character from right here. I hope you can see my mouse. If you can't see my mouse, then that sucks. But if you can, he takes the edge of his character from here to his hitbox being right here in a single frame, which means this entire area right here becomes trade area for anything that's already in that zone. And trades, obviously, when you're on the ground, win versus any air normal. So that's a really good thing for you in this situation. Jin can do the same shit. Like, Jin uses 5C in a similar manner. A lot of characters can do things like this. Stuff like this is just strong to represent. Bang has his JC. His JC isn't that... It's a little disjointed. But it's not crazy disjointed. Straight up, just like head on, it'll lose to JC, but it's obviously really good as a rising air normal. You go, okay, I can use it and abuse it in situations where Jin is higher than me. And I can catch his shit like that. Or I can use it versus like JB sometimes. Sometimes. You can also whiff punish him well because you're so fast. So you take like all this minor interaction knowledge that I'm giving you, you like go and you figure out tool by tool what you can do, how you can approach like different tools that the character has with your own tools. And you're like, okay, I have somewhat of a game plan now, whereas before it was kind of hopeless. So take all this shit that you found and you compile it all together and you go, okay, so knowing what I know about this matchup now, what spacing should I play to employ these tools that function well against this character? What kind of pacing should I try to set in neutral to, once again, use these tools that I find that do well against this character's tools, and that'll allow me to contest them in situations that were previously thought uncontestable? If you use that framework and that like guideline to dictate how you structure your neutral approach to matchups, you'll have a lot of success. And obviously this isn't just a Bang thing. I thought Bang would be a good example because Bang doesn't have traditional tools like to deal with this kind of shit. It doesn't have fantastic air-to-air buttons in terms of like you can't just press Jin JC and say fuck off, I can do whatever I want. He doesn't have a good anti-air, so his solution isn't just like be in a better spot to anti-air some shit. He has to actually think with his brain and be like, okay, these neutral scenarios I need to like come up with really good like countermeasures for. So that's why I use Bang as my example. But you can do this shit with anyone. Typically, it's not as obtuse as this, but the point remains the same, where you use your findings to figure out, like I said before, your pacing, your spacing, and all that kind of shit. And from there, like, you combine what has been mentioned earlier with the other labbing shit to figure out the risk reward for different scenarios in the matchup, and then you leverage risk reward. You figure out, okay, how should I be spending resources? How should I be spending? Should I be like viewing the macro game, etc., 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 based on risk reward of these situations and that situation, and blah 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 blah. You just put it all together, it'll make you go really far. That's probably as far as I'll go for the neutral segment. I feel like I don't really need to touch on it too much. I've gone over a lot of neutral shit before with my offensive concepts video. I actually went over a surprising amount of this kind of stuff already there. So if you want more, go check that shit out. Give it a peep. All that's really left is offense, and honestly, offense is just more of the same, where I covered most of that kind of shit in the offense video that I made a while back, in terms of like how you deal with universal options, how you should structure your spacing versus characters and shit. The only thing that I haven't really gone over too much is like, how do you change your pressure versus characters that have different reversals and shit? Like, how do I change my pressure versus Aquaman or Azrael or like Bang or whatever? And the solution there is literally just do the same shit you've been doing for labbing. Just go through the situations and fucking just figure out an answer. Just go situation by situation, every offensive string you can think of, have them do every tool that you can think of them doing. And just figure out, okay, I understand the RPS for this situation is this now, and this beats X, Y, Z, but loses to fucking T. And from there, properly employ the risk reward, and you win. Or at least you try to. You at least bring the game to a significantly more competent level than you were at before. And if they know the RPS, then it becomes like real BlazBlue, which doesn't get played much these days. But yeah. That was a bit of a rambly video. I kind of just made this one on a whim. I didn't script it too much, just felt like talking. So, I appreciate y'all sticking around to the end. There's like 10 to 20 players who I think really needed this video. So if you're one of them, I hope you got what you needed. And I hope I see you winning these fucking net play brackets from now on. Shit, what else? I think that's mostly it. Y'all take care. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.